Hey y'all, Rob here with ATX Legal, and today I'm going to talk about what to tell a criminal defense attorney at an initial consultation. There are certain things that you're going to want to have ready to go when you call an attorney, and I'm going to talk about those today. But before we get started on that, none of this is legal advice. It's all for educational purposes only. If you would like legal advice on your specific situation, you can contact us. There's a contact form below to set up a no-cost consultation. Now, this video is directed not only at the criminal defendant who might be in custody, but also to family members, friends who are calling on his behalf, because often that is the case. If you've come across this video, it might be because you have a loved one or a friend in custody and you're trying to contact an attorney for them. And it can be very stressful. You might be panicked, you might not know what's going on exactly, but here are some things you can prep before you call just so that you have the information to give the criminal defense attorney so that attorney can actually help that person better. Now, these first two are very basic, but I can't tell you how many times someone has called and they might not know the spelling of the person's name. Maybe they know a nickname, maybe they don't know the last name, or if the last name is hyphenated, they're not giving me the full last name, and that can make it very difficult to find the case, because when a person calls me, I'm going to be looking up their case in the court's portal system, and if I don't have the proper spelling of their last name, or in some cases their date of birth, I'm not going to be able to find their information. So just have that information ready to go. If you don't have it, be upfront, give as much information as you do have, and sometimes we can find the case in other ways. Next, if you're calling about yourself, you might have this information. If you're calling about someone else, you might not know, but open warrants. If there's an open warrant in another county or in another state, if there's an old traffic ticket that you failed to appear for, be sure to be upfront about that, because that can affect the jail release in certain cases. In other cases, we can work around it, but it's definitely better for the attorney to know about it going in rather than to be blindsided when they get to the bonding desk and they say, hold on, there's an open warrant. That warrant can keep him in custody for days, weeks, or even months. Next, we need to think about criminal history. If the person has a criminal history, whether that's in the state of Texas, in Travis County, or elsewhere, I can't tell you how many times someone has said, oh, no, I don't have a record. And then I find it later. I'm like, why didn't you tell me about this? Or like, oh, I thought you only needed Travis County cases. No, we need everything, because that criminal history could affect the judge's decision on whether or not to release on a PR bond. There are also new rules in place that for certain crimes, you cannot be released on a PR bond if you have it in your criminal history. So again, very important that you let your attorney know, or let the potential attorney know, when you're calling on a consultation. And related to that is immigration status. If you're not a US citizen, don't hide that information. You need to lead with that, because if there is an immigration hold, that's going to be a huge deal for your case, and in a lot of cases, it's actually going to prevent you from being released. Another thing you need to know when you're calling in, and this may seem obvious, but sometimes the callers don't know, is what jurisdiction did the arrest happen in? Sometimes it'll be obvious. If the arrest happened in your home, you're obviously going to know what jurisdiction you live in, which county you're in. But if the arrest happened on the road, you might not know. So in that case, it's best to narrow it down as much as possible. If you can find that information out and have that before you call, that's good. But if not, be prepared to answer some questions from the attorney, who's going to ask you, well, where about did he get arrested? If you don't know exactly where was he coming from, where was he going, so that we can narrow it down and find out where the charge happened and where he's being held. Next, you're going to want to talk about a little bit about what happened. And sometimes I get calls from people who are completely in the dark. They say, so-and-so was arrested. I have no idea why. I have no idea what's going on. And if that's the case, just let the attorney know. But if you do have any details, if you've talked to someone on the street, you've talked to a friend who was there, and you have an idea of what happened, you're going to want to relay that to the attorney. Now, I know I take anything at this stage with a grain of salt, because there's going to be a lot of information floating around that might not be accurate, but I still want to get your side of the story, what you've heard, and a lot of times I can piece together what's happened based on what you're telling me. Next, if you know any family members or friends or other contacts who can help out in this situation, it's good to have their contact information. Sometimes a person is not going to be released until there is a good address for them to go to. They maybe can't go back to their home for some reason, like in an assault case. So they're going to need another address and another person to vouch for them that they can stay at that address before they're going to be released from jail. So if you have that information, whether that's you or someone else who can vouch for that person, that's going to be good information to have before you call the attorney. And last but not least, we do need to talk about what funds are available for this person. So I'm going to quote an attorney fee. Typically on a misdemeanor charge, I'm going to require $2,000 up front. But in addition to that, sometimes there will be a bond that needs to be paid. And if there are those funds available, it's important for me to know that I can ask for a bond rather than a PR bond, which is basically a free bond, being the only option. So if those funds are available, it's good to let the attorney know. And if they're not available, let them know that as well. I just need to have a clear idea of what funds are available for a bond if it becomes necessary. Now, all of these things are good to have, but are they all necessary? No, they're not. If you have a person's name, if you have their date of birth, I'm going to be able to find their case. If it's in Travis County, a lot of those documents are available online. If it's in Hays or Williamson County, I can still get that information. Even though it's not online, I can usually get it from the court, but it could take a few days. And again, just a reminder, not legal advice, but you can contact us for legal advice by clicking on the contact form listed in the description below.